I did speak to Don Taylor about this, associate professor of public policy at Duke in North Carolina, and I asked him why the tax subsidies were so darn controversial.
In 2012, the Supreme Court considered the constitutionality of the individual mandate, and they said it was allowable. This case is a little different. It's a textual interpretation case. And the plaintiffs, or the people bringing the case against the government, say that people who have bought insurance through healthcare.gov, that tax credits or subsidies that help them be able to afford insurance are illegal. The government says it is legal, and basically the Supreme Court has to decide, who's right.
Okay, the media is saying that it comes down to 4 words, quote, established by the state, meaning you're referring to the subsidies of roughly, I think, the 46 or 47 or 36, 37 states in the union that don't have their own subsidy or their own health care plan, yet they join the national plan. So we're talking only about the national plan and for those individuals that get subsidies. Why are these 4 words so important?
Well, I don't think anybody thought they were important until a case was brought. And initially, nobody really took the case very seriously, or at least most people didn't take it seriously, because I know no one who thought this was an issue when the law was being discussed or debated, or even after it was passed. But the case, got a favorable hearing in some lower level courts, and eventually it got to the Supreme Court. And these 4 words are really what is it's going to be decided whether these tax credits can flow to a state like my state, North Carolina, which is using healthcare.gov for our citizens to buy health insurance. And
so
if you take away the
I apologize to interrupt you, but for our friends around the world, just to help them out a little bit, specifically in China, they may not appreciate, I guess, the subsidy part of this discussion. Explain what's wrong with the subsidies. Why can't they have subsidies? We have subsidies for everything else, it seems like.
Sure. I'll give you an example. In North Carolina, the average premium of someone who has bought insurance through healthcare.gov is about $415 per month. The government provides people help to purchase what I'm calling a subsidy or a tax credit. And after those tax credits are factored in, it costs somebody in North Carolina on average about $100 per month. So if the plaintiffs win this case, then what will happen is someone who signed up thinking their insurance premium monthly was going to be $100 a month, it's now going to be $415 a month, so much more expensive. Yeah. And the worry is then that many of those people will drop coverage, and the ones that will keep it will be the sickest people. And so whenever you have any kind of insurance market that's only got bad risk or sick people in it, then you end up with what's called death spiral.
But why is this subsidy, not legal, I guess, potentially? We haven't heard the result yet, but what's the legality issue of it?
Well, like I said, it's a textual interpretation issue. Whenever you have a law that's passed, there's always many steps that the executive branch has to take and put forth rules to basically bring a law into life, so to speak. And there's often give and take over how much discretion the executive branch of the government has in doing that. And this phrase, in an exchange established by a state, there's just not a lot of agreement about exactly what that means. And so if the Supreme Court says established by a state means that only if the state does every function can the tax credits flow, then it would stop the flow of these subsidies. So it's in one sense a very esoteric and detailed bit of minutia, but this bit of minutia is now on the front pages of the news here in the U.S.
Don, you know what the irony of all this is, right? In 18 months, what happens? It's the next election, essentially, and we potentially have a different leadership. And President Obama is supposed to be an expert constitutional lawyer and drafter of these proposals. So do you think this is a bit more personal, or is this really about the language in the text? I mean, is this politics, or is this about the words?
Well, I think it's about both. I mean, pretty much everything that's important is at some level about politics, and the way the politics is being waged here is about the words. So it doesn't have to be either or, and it is still a good thing that we will have a court decision, and so both sides presumably will accept it and move on. But the Affordable Care Act has it's always been, I think, a political story first and a policy story second.